Max had been Sarah Chen's eyes for nearly a decade. The Golden Retriever's intelligence, loyalty, and unwavering dedication had transformed her world from one of uncertainty and dependence into a life of confidence and freedom. But at 12 years old, Max's own eyes were beginning to fail him, and the time had come for one of the most difficult decisions a guide dog handler ever faces: retirement. Sarah stood in the training facility of Canine Vision Partner in Northern California, her hand resting gently on Max's graying head as she watched a young German Shepherd named Buddy work through his final evaluation exercises. The 18-month-old dog moved with precision and focus, his black and tan coat gleaming under the fluorescent lights as he navigated obstacle courses and demonstrated the complex skills that would soon make him someone's lifeline to independence. "He's exceptional," said Janet Morrison, the lead trainer who had been working with both dogs for the past 6 weeks. "His retention rate is remarkable, and his temperament is perfect for guide work. But honestly, Sarah, I've never seen anything quite like what's been happening between Max and Buddy." What Janet was referring to had begun 3 weeks earlier, when Sarah first brought Max to meet his potential successor. Traditional guide dog transitions typically involved the new dog training separately, while the retiring dog gradually reduced his working hours. But Max had other ideas. From the moment Buddy arrived at the facility, Max had appointed himself as the young dog's mentor. It started subtly. Max would position himself near Buddy during training sessions, his experienced eyes watching every movement, every command, every correction. When Buddy hesitated at a curb, Max would gently nudge him into the correct position. When the younger dog seemed confused by a complex navigation sequence, Max would demonstrate the proper technique with the patient dignity of a master teacher. "It's like he understands that Buddy will be taking care of you," Janet explained to Sarah as they watched the two dogs work together in the training area. "I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've never seen a retiring guide dog take such an active interest in training his replacement." Sarah felt a familiar tightness in her chest. The same emotion she'd been battling since Max's veterinary exam had confirmed what she already knew. His vision was deteriorating due to progressive retinal atrophy, a condition that would eventually leave him completely blind. The irony wasn't lost on her that the dog who had been her eyes was now losing his own sight. Max had come into Sarah's life when she was 28 years old, just 2 years after a car accident had stolen her vision and upended everything. She thought she knew about her future. She had been a successful architect, someone who lived through visual details and spatial relationships. The accident had left her feeling helpless and isolated, struggling to navigate even the most basic daily tasks. But Max changed everything. His training had been impeccable, his instincts extraordinary, and his devotion absolute. Together, they had traveled to conferences across the country, navigated busy city streets, hiked mountain trails, and even gone skydiving. An adventure that had required Max to wear his own protective goggles and harness. He had been more than her guide. He had been her partner, her protector, and her closest friend. Now, at 38, Sarah was successful again. Her architectural firm specialized in designing accessible spaces, work that had grown directly from her own experiences with disability. Max had made that career possible, and in a very real sense, he had given her back her life. The thought of him growing old and frail, of no longer being able to serve in the role that had defined him for so many years, was almost unbearable. The training process that followed was unlike anything the Canine Vision Partners staff had ever witnessed. Max seemed to have developed his own curriculum for Buddy's education, one that went far beyond the standard guide dog techniques taught in formal programs. During route work, the practice sessions where guide dogs learn to navigate specific paths their handlers use regularly, Max would walk alongside Buddy, occasionally stepping in to demonstrate proper positioning at intersections or the correct response to overhead obstacles. His movements were subtle but deliberate, and Buddy seemed to absorb every lesson with remarkable focus. "Watch this," Janet said during one particularly memorable training set. She had Sarah and Buddy navigate a complex route through downtown Sacramento, while Max followed closely behind with another trainer. When they reached a construction zone that hadn't been there the day before, Buddy hesitated, clearly uncertain about how to proceed. Without any prompting, Max moved forward and demonstrated the correct technique, assessing the obstacle, finding the safest alternative path, and then pausing to ensure his handler was comfortable with the detour. Buddy watched intently, and when they repeated the route 15 minutes later, the young dog executed the same sequence flawlessly. "It's like he's passing on 10 years of real-world experience," Janet marveled. "Buddy isn't just learning textbook, guide work. He's getting a masterclass in practical problem-solving." The emotional complexity of the situation wasn't lost on anyone involved. Max's dedication to training his successor was admirable, but it also highlighted the approaching end of his working life. Sarah could see it in the way he moved more stiffly in the mornings, in the way he sometimes missed visual cues that would have been automatic just a year earlier, in the way he seemed to be putting every ounce of his remaining energy into ensuring Buddy's success. Dr. Amanda Foster, the veterinarian and who had been caring for Max since his puppyhood, explained the progressive nature of his condition during a consultation at the training facility. "The good news is that it's not painful," she said, her hand gentle on Max's head as he sat calmly beside Sarah's chair. "But his vision will continue to deteriorate. Within 6 months, he'll likely be completely blind." The irony of the situation was profound. A guide dog going blind, teaching his replacement how to see for someone else. But Dr. Foster pointed out something that gave Sarah. Dogs adapt to blindness much better than humans do. Especially dogs as intelligent and well-trained as Max. His other senses are highly developed, and his familiarity with your routines and environments will help him adjust. He can still have a wonderful quality of life. As the training progressed, the bond between Max and Buddy deepened into something that transcended the typical relationship between working dogs. They began sleeping curled together in the facility's kennel area, sharing meals and playing with a gentle consideration that spoke of genuine affection. Buddy, despite being younger and more energetic, seemed to understand that Max required patience and respect. The training staff began referring to them as the professor and his student, and the nickname fit perfectly. Max's teaching methods were sophisticated and nuanced. He would use body language, gentle physical guidance, and even what appeared to be vocal communication to help Buddy understand complex. During one memorable session, Sarah was practicing with Buddy in a busy shopping center while Max observed from a distance with Janet. When Buddy became overwhelmed by the crowds and noise, freezing in the middle of a corridor, Max somehow sensed his distress from 50 feet away. He approached slowly and positioned himself next to the younger dog, his calm presence immediately settling Buddy's nerves. "That's not something we can teach in a classroom," Janet observed. That kind of emotional intelligence, that ability to read another dog's stress and provide comfort, that's pure instinct and. The most remarkable aspect of Max's mentoring became apparent during intelligent disobedience training, perhaps the most critical skill a guide dog can possess. This involves the dog's ability to refuse a command when obeying it would put their handler in danger. It's a complex concept that requires dogs to make split-second decisions about their handler's safety. During a practice session, Sarah gave Buddy the command to move forward at an intersection, but the timing coincided with a city bus making a wide right turn that would have put them directly in the vehicle's path. Buddy, still learning to assess such complex situations, began to step forward. Max immediately positioned himself between Buddy and the street, using his body to block the younger dog's movement. His message was clear. Sometimes the most important thing a guide dog can do is say no. Buddy absorbed the lesson instantly, and from that day forward, his intelligent disobedience responses were flawless. Max isn't just teaching Buddy the mechanics of guide work. Sarah realized during one of their sessions, he's teaching him the heart of it. The absolute commitment to keeping your handler safe, no matter what. As the 8-week training period neared its end, everyone involved began to prepare for the transition. Sarah would officially retire Max and begin working exclusively with Buddy, while Max would become what the guide dog community calls a pet, a beloved companion no longer required to work but still cherished as family. The certification process for Buddy was more rigorous than usual, given the unique circumstances of his training. He had to demonstrate not only technical proficiency, but also the emotional maturity to work independently, without Max's guidance. The evaluations took place over several days and included complex urban navigation, crowded environments, and high-stress scenarios. Throughout the testing, Max remained nearby, no longer actively teaching but clearly invested in Buddy's success. His presence seemed to give the younger dog confidence, and Buddy's performance exceeded everyone's expectations. "He's ready," Janet announced after the final evaluation. "Buddy has demonstrated exceptional skill, judgment, and temperament. He's going to be a wonderful partner for you, Sarah." But the most emotional moment was yet to come. The official transition ceremony was scheduled for a Friday morning at the Canine Vision Partners facility. Family, friends, training staff, and several other guide dog handlers gathered to witness what everyone understood would be a milestone in both dogs' lives. Buddy's graduation into working life and Max's retirement from service. Sarah stood in the center of the training room, flanked by her 2 canine companions. In her hand, she held 2 harnesses. Max's worn leather harness, polished smooth by years of faithful service, and Buddy's new harness, still stiff with newness, but soon to be broken in by their shared adventures. "Max," Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion, "you've been the most incredible partner anyone could ask for. You've given me back my independence, my confidence, and my life. Today, I'm asking you to do one more thing for me. Help me welcome Buddy to our family." What happened next left everyone in the room struggling to contain their emotions. Max approached Buddy slowly, his movements deliberate and ceremonial. He gently picked up Buddy's new harness in his mouth and carried it to Sarah, placing it carefully at her feet. Then he returned to where his own harness lay, and with the same careful dignity, picked it up and carried it to Buddy. The symbolism was unmistakable. Max was formally passing the responsibility of caring for Sarah from himself to his successor. But he wasn't finished. Max positioned himself directly in front of Buddy, and for a long moment, the 2 dogs simply looked at each other. Then Max gently pressed his forehead against Buddy's, a gesture that seemed to convey everything words couldn't express: trust, responsibility, love, and a solemn promise. When Max stepped back, Buddy moved forward and carefully picked up Max's harness, carrying it back to him with the reverence of someone accepting a sacred trust. The older dog accepted his harness gracefully, then moved to Sarah's right side, while Buddy took position on her left. "I think," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper, "they've just made their own arrangement." Janet, wiping tears from her eyes, managed to explain what they were witnessing. "This is unprecedented. Max isn't just retiring. He's formally transitioning his role to Buddy while still maintaining his own connection to you. They've created a partnership that honors both the old and the new." From that day forward, the arrangement Max and Buddy had worked out between themselves became their new normal. Buddy took over all the active guide work, the navigation, the obstacle avoidance, the route management that required sharp vision and split-second reflexes. But Max remained part of the team, providing emotional support, backup judgment, and what could only be described as supervisory oversight. When they traveled together, Buddy would guide Sarah through airports and hotel lobbies, while Max walked calmly alongside, his presence offering reassurance to both his human and canine partners. During their daily walks, Buddy handled the technical aspects of guidance, while Max contributed his years of experience about their regular routes. Which coffee shop had the friendliest staff? Which crosswalk had the most reliable timing? Which shortcuts were safe to take? The arrangement required some adjustment from Sarah as well. She had to learn to trust Buddy's judgment while still honoring Max's experience. There were moments of confusion, times when the two dogs' different styles or perspectives created uncertainty. But those moments became fewer as the three of them settled into their new rhythm. Dr. Foster monitored Max's condition carefully during the transition. As predicted, his vision continued to deteriorate, but his adjustment to blindness was remarkable. His other senses compensated beautifully, and his familiarity with Sarah's routines meant he could still contribute meaningfully to their daily activities. "He's found a new purpose," Dr. Foster observed during one of their checkups. Instead of being Sarah's guide, he's become Buddy's mentor and Sarah's emotional support. It's a role that honors his experience while acknowledging his limitations. The most touching aspect of their arrangement became apparent during times of stress or uncertainty. When Buddy encountered situations that challenged his confidence, Max would position himself nearby, offering the steady presence that came from years of experience. When Sarah faced particularly difficult navigation challenges, both dogs would work together, Buddy providing the active guidance while Max offered the wisdom that comes only from having faced similar situations hundreds of times. 6 months after the transition, Sarah received a call from Janet at the training facility. "I wanted to let you know," Janet said, "that we've been studying Max and Buddy's partnership, and we think it might change how we approach guide dog retirement in the future. What they've created, this collaborative model, might be something we can replicate with other retiring dogs and their successors." The idea was revolutionary. Instead of forced retirement, experienced guide dogs could transition to advisory roles, sharing their knowledge while new dogs handled the physical demands of active guidance. It would require careful matching of personalities and extensive training for both dogs and handlers, but the potential benefits were enormous. "Max has taught us that retirement doesn't have to mean obsolescence," Janet continued. "Experience has value, wisdom matters, and sometimes the best way to honor a lifetime of service is to find new ways to serve." Sarah smiled as she listened, watching Max and Buddy resting together in a patch of afternoon sunlight. Max's head was resting on Buddy's back, while the younger dog remained alert to their surroundings. The perfect embodiment of their partnership. "I think Max knew that all along," Sarah replied. "He just had to show us what was possible." As the months passed, Max's blindness became complete, but his role in their family team remained vital. He had become something unique in the guide, Dog World, a retired working dog who had found a way to keep working, just in a different capacity. His days were filled with purpose, mentoring Buddy, providing emotional support to Sarah, and demonstrating that disability didn't diminish worth or capability. The story of Max, Buddy, and Sarah began attracting attention from the guide dog community and beyond. They were invited to speak at conferences, participate in training demonstrations, and share their story with organizations serving people with disabilities. Their partnership became a model for how retirement, mentorship, and collaboration could create something more powerful than any individual could achieve alone. But perhaps the most meaningful recognition came from an unexpected source. A year after Max's official retirement, he received a special commendation from Canine Vision Partners, the first Distinguished Service in Retirement award the organization had ever created. The ceremony was simple but profound. Max, now completely blind but still dignified and alert, sat beside Buddy as Janet read the citation. For exceptional dedication to service, innovative mentorship, and demonstrating that true leadership means knowing when and how to pass the torch while continuing to light the way. When Janet placed the special collar around Max's neck, Buddy moved closer to his mentor, pressing against him in the gesture of support and affection that had become their signature. Max's tail wagged slowly, and his expression seemed to convey a quiet satisfaction, not just at the recognition, but at the knowledge that his life's work would continue through Buddy, and hopefully through other partnerships inspired by their example. Sarah knelt between her two companions, her hands resting on both their heads. "Thank you," she whispered, "for teaching me that endings can be beginnings, that retirement can be transformation, and that the most beautiful stories are the ones where everyone gets to be a hero." In the months that followed, Canine Vision Partners began developing a formal mentor dog program based on Max and Buddy's success. Not every retiring guide dog would be suited for such a role, and not every new dog would benefit from this kind of intensive mentoring. But for the right matches, the program promised to revolutionize how the guide dog community approached the transition from active service to retirement. Max had done more than teach his replacement. He had redefined what it meant to serve, to age gracefully, and to find new purpose when old purposes could no longer be fulfilled. His legacy would live on, not just in Buddy's skillful guidance, but in every future partnership that honored both the wisdom of experience and the energy of youth. Today, when people ask Sarah about her guide dogs, she doesn't talk about having a working dog and a retired dog. She talks about having a team. Buddy, who sees the world with young eyes and responds with quick reflexes, and Max, who understands the world with hard-won wisdom and responds with patient judgment. Together, they had created something unprecedented, a guide-dog partnership that honored the past while embracing the future, proving that sometimes the most beautiful stories are the ones that nobody thought to write until they happened naturally, one step at a time.